Question is, how did you become homeless? What's your story about being homeless?
I was homeless twice. The first time was in the summer of 1991. I was waiting for my grandfather's inheritance to clear probate. My uncle is James Lofton, water for the Green Bay Packers, number 80. He was appointed the executor of my grandfather's will, but seeing as how he was already a football player, he really didn't see the need for urgency. He figured he could just rest on his laurels and let it take care of itself. And while I was waiting for him to do the job that he had been asked to do, while I was waiting for this very slow probate process, I was on the street. Fortunately, I had managed to talk someone with my last name, someone who may or may not be my cousin, to let me sleep in his garage while I went to community college full time, this being Solano Community College. So that was, let's see, it was July. It was July of 1991 until June of 1992. So I still to this day refer to it as the year of hell. In fact, I bring it up in my first novel here, in the introduction. By the way,
this book?
Yes, and it's endorsed by Professor Howard Zinn, author of A People's History of the United States. If you don't know what that is, look for the brief scene in the movie A Good Will Hunting where Matt Damon plugs the book when he's talking to Robin Williams. So I got the inheritance after a year of being on the street, went to San Francisco State University, but then that same book got me kicked out of San Francisco State because, well, God, how do I thumbnail this? The book talks about how the corporate elite in America helped fund the Nazis, and General Electric is one of them. General Electric owns NBC, so guess what happens when I went to GE owned NBC trying to, get them to promote their book. And since a handful of corporations own every major mass media outlet that there is, and since birds of a feather flock together, they all figured, well, we would rather talk about Tanya Harding or Monica Lewinsky or OJ than we would ever bring up a book like that. So, the book didn't get the coverage it deserved, even though there are no copies left of it because it sold that fast. Let's see. Second time I was homeless. That same book got me my degree from Evergreen in Olympia, Washington, Evergreen State College in Olympia, Washington. After that, I went to Las Vegas, wrote for a paper similar to The Stranger up here called The Las Vegas City Life. The newspaper was bought by a corporation, again with the corporations, the bane of my existence. Then the motive, the sole intent of them buying the Las Vegas City Life was to get rid of me. Because Las Vegas is not run by the mafia, contrary to popular opinion. Las Vegas is run by the Libertarian Party. And the Libertarian Party hates taxes. And so here I am saying, the casinos in Las Vegas should be taxed. In my newspaper column, my column was saying how we should tax the corporate elite. So guess who they wanted to get rid of? At the time, I was living with my ex, and the reason why she's my ex is because she kicked me out. I wasn't making enough money for her taste, and as the documentary based on my life explains, she wasn't my type to begin with. And so, as a result of those two things, she gave me the big boot, and I was homeless for, God, how long was that? Until I could move back in with my mother. And there's nothing like having to move back in with your mom past the age of 30. But the good news is that after 2 years of living with my mom, I was able to get on the waiting list for low-income subsidized housing here in Seattle, which is where I am to this day. But don't be fooled, because even though it seems like it's, a safe haven, it's not as much as it should be. and I'm dancing on the edge of eviction and thus homelessness because of how noisy the building is and because of how backwards the management there is. It's like Alice walking through the looking glass in Wonderland, because instead of telling the noisy neighbors to lower their volume, I'm being told it's, quote, harassment, end quote, to tell a noisy neighbor to lower their volume. Go figure. You know, future historians are going to be mind-boggled for ages over that. They're going to be scratching their heads trying to figure that one out. You know, as far as homelessness in general, there are many causes, but the biggest cause of homelessness is corporate dominance. If you have someone that says, my MTV Cribs mansion, my MC Hammer mansion is more important than his life, her life, if you're going to put the maintenance of a mansion ahead of your fellow human being, then right there is the number one cause of homelessness, the poverty that corporate greed creates. And so what has to happen is we have to have a different culture, a culture that is not based on Robin Leach's Lifestyles of Rich and Famous, a culture that is not based on Jay-Z's yacht in that goddamn big pimping video. We need a culture that says to live simply so that others can simply live. We need a culture that says that if and when you do succeed, if and when you do become rich and famous, then get yourself a house and then give the rest of the money to charity. Do not sequester yourself off into some damn palace and then hide from the rest of humanity and then have the gall to wonder, well, why are things the way they are? There's a documentary called The Queen of Versailles about David Siegel and the Tower of Babel-esque mansion that he never even finished because the 2008 economic collapse kept him from doing so. But just imagine what would have happened, how much better the world would be if he had donated that money to charity instead. So yeah, we need to stop pitying the rich. We need to stop feeling sorry for the wealthy. We need to start holding their feet to the fire.
One last question. We were wondering, how do you, on a daily basis, how do people treat you?
Well, I treat myself with dignity, and that comes across. But if you're walking around with paint all over yourself, wandering in the delusion, you're gonna get treated accordingly. I suppose another cause of homelessness is the difference between positive role models and negative role models. I was raised on Superman, but all too many out here are raised on Superfly. Therein lies the problem and the difference. If the ideal that you strive for is something greater than yourself, then it's like the old expression goes, shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you'll be amongst the stars. But if your goal in life is to be as cool as possible, if your goal in life is to not care, if your goal in life is to just hang out and get faded all day, every single day, then your life is going to take a diametrically different approach. It's going to take a different path, and you will be treated accordingly. And at that point, you don't have the right to wonder why people treat you badly. So, you know, if you are demonstrating that you are going out of your way to help yourself, then that's one thing. But if you're just hanging out, and if that's all that you do, well, you roll your dice, you take your chances.
There's probably some out there, you know, putting a sign up, collecting money, and going to their home.
Do you have any perspective on this?
I think that there's a lot of reasons people are homeless. You know, it could be mental illness, it could be drug issues, it could be loss of job, various issues around it.
Usually to kind of steer away, so I don't have to get involved.
Yeah, I guess my first reaction is I feel bad for them, but at the same time, I'm sure they're gonna ask me money, so yeah. I simply don't make eye contact.
Usually just because they're out of a job and don't have anywhere else to go.
I think a lot of it is drug abuse and alcohol abuse. And for a lot of street youth, oftentimes it's safer to be